The police were on the hunt for Lily May's killer. A group of teenagers had seen the suspect watching the crime scene. Later on, the children who had found the body of the little girl were taken home by their parents, and the local police department closed the town and streets so that they can find the killer. It had been 2 weeks since the body was found, and the suspect was on the run. The police was closing in on the suspect. Police had found a rundown cabin not far from town. They decided to gather all of the members of the police department and start there, search the cabin for the suspect. To their surprise, there was another child in a locked cage. They hurried to get the child out of the cage and to safety, while the other officers checked the rest of the cabin to find that there was a lot of blood in the next room. But the suspect was not in the cabin, so they left the cabin with the scared child and took the lost child to the local hospital, where the child got some treatment done, and called the child's parents. And the parents rushed over to the hospital, where the parents saw that there was a lot of police officers around the hospital making sure that the suspect did not enter, and the parents hurried to the hospital room, where they saw their child, and the parents hugged their child, and an officer came into the room and started to ask the child questions, and the child began to answer the questions, and the child explained that the person who took her knew everyone in town, and the police began to ask the girl if she could describe the person who took her, and the girl described the suspect the same as the group of kids that saw the killer at the crime scene. So now the police have a description of what the suspect looks like. As soon as the questions stopped, the mother asked the officer, "When can we take our daughter home?" The officer replied, "After the tests have come back, and that the daughter is fit and stable, because we don't want anything to happen to the little girl." The officer told the parents that they can stay at the hospital with their daughter while she is getting treated. As days grew to months, the daughter's strength came back, so the hospital, one of the officers that stayed by the door, took the family home and told them that someone will come and put an alarm system in their home, so they are more safe at night as they were. Leaving officers were getting new information about the suspect that killed Lily May and kidnapped Emily Jackson. The suspect had been seen near the edge of town, so the officers hurried to see if they can catch the suspect if he is still there. One of the patrol cars had already arrived to where the suspect was seen, but as soon as the officer arrived, there was no one there, so the officer started to look around, but the suspect was hiding and waiting to ambush the officer. The suspect hit the officer over the head, knocking the officer out cold, and then the suspect picked up the officer and took the officer away so nobody could see what had happened. After some of the officers were calling the other officer, but the kidnapped officer did not respond. So the other officers went to the last location to where the officer was. And as soon as they arrived, they noticed the police car's doors were wide open and the officer was nowhere, so the other officer radioed in to let the others know that there is a missing officer, and now it is an investigation of the whereabouts of the officer and the suspect.